in the month of July. Is there more weakness in store? In Mumbai, at least, it's not been raining at all, so we've had to suffer. But let's get two gentlemen in. GP Sharma of Skymet and HSBC India's chief economist Pranjul Bhandari joins in to give us a 360-degree perspective of how the situation will pan out if the monsoons don't pick up. Mr. Sharma, I want to start off with you. I understand that you have not revised your overall monsoon estimates yet, and you still maintain that the rains will be at 102% of the long period average, or rather 104% of the long period average for the entire monsoon season. Given that July has not panned out that well, would you want to scale down your estimates?
Firstly, what you said was 104 we had given for the month of July, and 102 for the monsoon season as such. Okay. Now, yes, what you said is right. Slowdown in the monsoon is there, which is noticeable in the month of July. But then I don't think there is any need to press the panic button as of now. Okay, we are overall, if you see, from the normal, we are 18 millimeters short in the season so far. From 1st of June till 15th of July, the shortfall is of 18 millimeters, which is not a very big deficiency as such.
How much is it percentage-wise?
Percentage-wise, 6%. Okay. As of today, it is 6%. Yes, earlier it was, as Mr. Pai said, 5%. Yes, yesterday we were down by another 0.8 or so, and that's how the deficiency total became about 6%. Yeah. Which is, I don't think that's an alarming deficiency as such. Yes, we have not revised our estimates so far. We will take a call in case required. There's still some time, and that we think that we need to watch this month of July as such in toto, and thereafter, in case required, we take a call at the month end.
Well, actually, you know, Mr. Sharma, the July rains are very important determinant of food prices. When July rains fail in the past, there are econometric models which say that they show a rise in food prices. That apart, you know, the quantum of rains becomes important for other reasons as well. Mr. Pai told us that 23rd we could see a recovery. What's your estimate?
I will say that little recovery even before that. Okay. Last 24 hours, if you see, it has been pouring in Uttar Pradesh. It has rained very heavily in Bihar also, parts of Chhattisgarh. So today itself, you will see that normal rains over the country will be there. We are aware that yes, there are some pockets, there are some worrisome divisions where the rains have not been there, particularly South Peninsula, parts of Maharashtra. Also, they are not seeing much of rainfall, rather no significant rainfall in the month of July, barring weather. But then rest of the divisions, the rest of the regions, particularly Northwest India, is doing exceedingly well. Entire Uttar Pradesh has done well. Bihar, which was deficit, is making up, and it is almost normal now. And central parts, Madhya Pradesh is doing. The two pockets which are of concern, definitely they are Gujarat and Maharashtra.
So Gujarat, Maharashtra, when is the recovery?
See, I see that recovery, yes, around that time, when we said that between 20th and 25th or so, I see even rainfall for those pockets also. And I think, yes, in case we have a rainfall in another 5-6 days time, that should take some worries off at least.
Okay, yes. That allays some of our concerns, Mr. Sharma. But can you tell us, you know, what your view is on El Nino? Because I think one of the worries that came out was after the Australian Met Department said that the effects of El Nino are intensifying across the globe. What would your own reading be on how strong the El Nino is currently?
El Nino is very strong. We never denied. We say that its effect is not there. El Nino is very much there. It is growing also. It's going to be there for the entire 2015. Could spill over even to 2016 also. But then along with El Nino, as we have been saying even on earlier occasions, many other things, they also matter. It's not the El Nino alone. it's MJO, it's IOD, which are closer home, and then we are getting these two also getting favorable for us, particularly in the next about 10 days itself. So we rely more on that also. Even during El Nino, last year El Nino was there. I tell you that around this time, around 15th of July, last year the rains were just 88 millimeter in the month of July for the country. This time we have almost similar, 91 millimeter of rain, and when the month July ended, it covered up a deficiency to almost about 20%. That is the strength of the monsoon.
Sure. Take your point. Now let me get the Economist in. Pranjul, you've been listening to Mr. Sharma and maybe heard Mr. Pai yesterday. What's your assessment? Already we read your note on food inflation and that dramatic jump we saw in the month of June. Should we worry that July may have a psychological impact on inflation expectation because the rains are not there yet?
So definitely, Lata, disruptive rains mean havoc for both food inflation and also for rural demand. But just wanted to take a step back and point out three mitigating factors that we see play out as well. One is that the translation from El Nino to drought, and then from drought to higher food prices or lower rural demand is not really very clear. There are many mitigating factors along the way. For instance, any steps that the government might take to expedite imports, exports, release of food stocks and so on can actually allow inflation to sort of not rise as much. And on the other side, on the rural demand side, we now have a much more diversified agricultural sector with livelihoods, forestry, fishery. So the impact of low rains into low rural demand may not also be one-to-one. So that's one mitigating factor. The other is that because rains were so much better in June, our sowing patterns still look quite healthy compared to normal of last few years. At the same time, stocks in the granaries are at decent levels, and moisture in the soil are also at decent levels. And the third mitigating factor is that the global commodity prices continue to remain fairly low. Things like oil seeds and pulses, for which the CPI had ticked up earlier this week, are commodities we can actually import. In fact, last night when we got the trade data, we found that the imports for pulses, for oil seeds and for fertilizers have all shot up. So in some sense, we get the feeling that, look, there could be some problems with monsoons, but we are taking some mitigating steps at home as well.
Okay, well, that is good to hear, but for laymen like us, we just notice the prices of pulses shooting up day after day. I mean, if you go out into the market and you buy, say, urad dal, you're spending like what, 100, 120 rupees a kilo compared to about 70, 80 that you used to spend same time last year. So on food inflation particularly, what's the sense you're getting, Pranjul? What could the trajectory be, say, in the next 2 to 3 months?
So the one I worry about is fresh foods. I know that pulses are shooting up right now, and that is worrisome. But pulses are also about 2 to 3% of the CPI basket. The real animal I worry about is fruits and vegetables, which together are about 10% of the CPI basket. And then there is other, fresh food, for example, meat and fish and so on, which are also, becoming quite inflationary right now. These are the ones I worry about, because here the government's mitigating steps in terms of, buying, selling food and so on can't really be as potent as government steps in some of the non-perishables like cereals and so on. So that's the part I do worry about. We track a lot of the fast-moving daily food price data, and over the last month we are seeing upticks for vegetable prices, which is something which is worrying me. There's already a lot of anecdotal evidence on onion prices which will go up. So all of this together makes me feel that, look, right now we are in a very delicate situation. We haven't seen food prices soar, heavily, but we are seeing pressures bubbling on the ground, and that, I think, at this point has very important implications for RBI's monetary policy in August.
Okay, well, actually, referring to the same list that you mentioned yesterday, the breakup of the import list, you also had a goodish bit of increased imports of vegetables and fruit. I think that amount also went up by some 8-9%, if I'm not mistaken. Then you had the agriculture minister saying that they're going to connect, agriculture secretary, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to connect APMCs of 50 different APMCs of various states in an electronic trading. You're not laying much store by all this to quell prices of even non-pulse items?
Well, Lata, I would have just got on to that point next. I'm so glad you brought it up, that if we really take a big step back and we think about RBI's 4%, the ultimate target by 2018, it squarely depends on food inflation. And the reason being that not only does food inflation is 50% of basket directly, but indirectly through inflation expectations and through wage negotiations, they play an even bigger role. And to the extent we can do structural reforms in food production and distribution, this target can be reached. Otherwise not. We have written about it quite a lot in the past, that really reforming the APMC will be a great step ahead. Now, for many years we didn't really understand what is the right APMC, which works in the country. A lot of states, were experimenting with limited success. Now we actually have a model, the Karnataka model, which really puts a lot of the food items, on e-platforms, e-mandis, and so on. And to the extent that can actually be spread out across the country, I think that could really play wonders. But honestly, right now it's basically in paper, and we have to see how it pans out. I don't think it will be an easy win, probably about a couple of quarters.
Okay, we are running out of time, but sorry, okay. Just give me two numbers. What is your expectation of inflation going ahead? I mean, Jan 2016 or whatever, your inflation number and your food inflation number. Also, what are you expecting on August 2nd?
Well, on the 2nd, at this point, our base case has been no rate cut on the 2nd, and the CPI data earlier this week and the high-frequency food data only makes us more confident about that call. So, no rate cut as of now for 2nd August. In terms of inflation trajectory until Jan 2016, we think it's going to be marginally below 6%. So the 6% target of RBI will be met. But really a lot depends on how the food prices, especially fresh food prices, are going to pan out in the next couple of months.
Okay, Mr. Sharma, I wanted to get you in on this. First, before that, you were telling us that there's a 6% deficiency in the monsoon so far. But given what you've seen in June and July, by the end of the monsoon season, how much deficiency would you expect?
You see, as I told you earlier, we have given the season's forecast as such. We still stand by that forecast. But if required, I said that we may take a call end of July, in which case, obviously, we take the call for the month of August and September individually, and obviously that will reflect on the season also. Okay, so that will be sometime towards end of July.
All right,
so
that's Lata.
Sorry, just one final question. On the subject of sowing, have you done any analysis on where the sowing has gotten impacted the most? I heard you mention Gujarat and Maharashtra, but any other states where sowing has gotten impacted?
This question is for me?
Yes, Mr. Sharma.
Yeah. Okay, yes. You see, as was brought out earlier by the guest also, that June rains have been good, the soil moisture levels have been good, and they have been maintaining well. Yes, the area of concern definitely becomes parts of Maharashtra. In Maharashtra, that too, it's Marathwada and Madhya Maharashtra, they are most affected, and some parts of Gujarat. But Gujarat earlier had very good rains. So, as of now, I don't foresee anything getting largely affected on account of sowing. A lot of sowing has been done. I think satisfactory level has been achieved. But yes, some parts they do require some rains, particularly Maharashtra, for the sowing to continue. Yes, they need rains desperately in the next about 1 week or so, which I hope they will get.
All right, yes. We live in that hope. Thank you very much, Mr. Sharma and Pranjul, for joining us in this conversation. There is a Maharashtrian lady in my neighborhood who is worried about her crops, says that, they did the sowing in June, and now the words she used is vaat lag gaya crop fasal ka. So, there are pockets where there is a problem, but obviously these are pockets.